Gaming is in session, and on the docket today is the case of Drums Rock for the PSVR2, developed and published by Garage 51 Entertainment. Coming in at a price of $19.99, there is a free demo available, which Adam talked about last week. So I'm presenting Adam. The charges for Drums Rock are 1 count of percussive sensation, 1 count of playlist particularity, and 1 count of sweating the small stuff. The prosecution has the floor, and so I will proceed. So thank you, esteemed gaming court. Thank you, your honor and jury. Rhythm action music games have become a foundational component of the VR gaming library, filling the plastic guitar-shaped void left in the gaming community's life since the fall of the Guitar Hero and Rock Band franchises. What was once a ubiquitous, essential element of any dormitory party, music game peripherals have now made the journey through Goodwill shelves and into the land of late-night eBay novelty shopping lists. So what, my dear jury, is a musically untalented rhythm enthusiast such as myself supposed to do in the modern era of gaming? I bring forth the case of Drums Rock to answer that question. The first question anyone asks themselves, however, when venturing into the VR instrument simulation space is how could it possibly feel like the real thing? In Drums Rock, one is encouraged to sit down in front of a drum set comprising 2 cymbals and 3 drums aligned in a set in front of you. Over the player's shoulder, the defendant provides its weapons of percussive war in the form of 2 drumsticks, 1 in each sense controller, but held fast in hand by a trigger button. The first maneuver of any player will be obvious, a cadenced banging of the 2 drumsticks over the head, and it is from here that Drums Rock presents its evidence for feeling. Drums Rock makes good use of haptic feedback in the controllers such that each strike feels believable. The cymbals feel different from the drumsticks feel different than the drums, each drum feels slightly different, and the placement of the drums themselves feels reasonable and within reach. You're encouraged to sit down and get a real feeling of reaching out to each individual pad to make sure you hit it appropriately. It is possible to adjust the spread to match your arm length and the height to match your height, and I found myself having to make adjustments so as not to inadvertently hit a drum or cymbal out of turn. And I'm still fine-tuning that a bit, but any skepticism I initially felt, however, regarding the experience melted away rather quickly as I soon dipped into the familiar movements I had when playing Rock Band with a physical drum. The lack of setup and peripherals in this case ended up being a boon to the experience overall, even though while minimized, I haven't been able to completely eliminate tracking hiccups or accidental hits or misses. For these reasons, on the charge of percussive sensation, I find Drums Rock guilty.
So I will say I played the demo, and there was something very satisfying about when you hit that drum as those little, I played the demon level, as the little demons were coming at you. There's something satisfying about that. I understand what you're talking about. Does that get less impressive or less fun the more you play it?
Not to me. It was satisfying in that I always, when I hit the drum, I felt that response. I felt the resonance of it. And that's necessary, right? If you're not feeling that, then you don't feel like you're playing the music. You don't feel that response. You don't feel like you're actually engaging with the song. So it never really went away for me. Really the bad thing is, and as I mentioned, when you accidentally hit a drum, so you don't expect to feel a vibration and you do, that means you probably hit a drum way over there when you were reaching out there. The other issue I had sometimes was I like to cross my arms when I drum. I used to do it in Rock Band all the time. It's hard to do that with the Sense controllers because they're so big. You end up colliding a lot if you're not careful. So I ran into that a couple times, but I just learned to keep my hands in their appropriate spot.
Fair enough. Let's move on.
All right, on to the second charge of playlist particularity. We face the reality of any music-focused game in that it lives and dies by its playlist. While Drums Rock boasts around 30 songs, most, if not all, are either covers of popular songs from bands like Evanescence, Ailstorm, Blind Guardian, and a lot of rock bands that I admittedly have never heard of, or their original compositions from the Drums Rock team themselves. That being said, I haven't found myself disappointed in the cover songs, and although some of the original songs aren't my cup of tea, I still mostly enjoyed playing through them at least. One issue I do have with the songs, or rather the game in general, is the disconnect that can occur between a song's drum track and the actual drumming required in the game. For example, you see 3 demons coming at you, 3 notes coming at you that you need to hit, but as you hit the notes, you hear 4 or 5 or 6 or a nice tremble of, but you're only hitting the drum 3 times. That disconnect kind of takes me out of it. I want to hit all those notes. For the easier difficulties, this is understandable. I was acclimating to the gameplay. You know, you can't throw something like that at a beginner. However, even on the hard difficulty, there are still times wherein I hear a handful of extra drum strikes that are likely deemed too difficult to realistically replicate in the game. It's not a deal breaker. The game is plenty difficult, but it does mean that you likely won't reach the highs that you experience in something like Rock Band, where you have that physical drum kit, and the expert difficulty tracks in those games provide a near one-to-one connection between what I was actually doing and what I actually heard. I'll grant that this might just be a limitation of VR in general, as a button press detection is undeniably more reliable than VR collision tracking. However, I would be interested to see if maybe in a sequel or DLC or some kind of expansion, this gap can be closed a bit. Maybe they give us a higher difficulty. Maybe they just kind of open up the Pandora's box on some of these tracks and really see how many notes we can hit with this VR method of playing the instruments. But in the end, I still found myself rocking out to the rhythm as I drummed along with almost every song, which leads me to judge Drums Rock for the charge of playlist particularity. Guilty.
So I admit I've never played Rock Band, but I was a big Guitar Hero guy back in the day. And when you played a difficult song and you practiced and eventually you nailed it, there was a sense it was very rewarding. Do you, when you've played some of these more difficult songs, do you feel that same sensation? I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
But I also had a guitar in my hand and I had practiced a long time to nail it. And then I finally did it. I feel like it might feel different, but could I be wrong?
Now, I haven't dove in and tried to like get an S plus rank or 100% or anything on these songs, but I do feel for the songs that have a close match from the drum track to the notes that you're actually being told to play. If that match is close enough, then I do feel satisfaction. But if I'm playing an easier song and the notes are kind of spread out and easier to hit, even though I hear tons of drumming in the background, I feel like I'm just doing good at the game. I don't feel like I'm playing the song quite as much. So I think my point is that satisfaction you feel has an upper cap to it because they're not making it a one-to-one match. They're not matching every note to every note in the game. And so, yeah, you still get the satisfaction of like practicing, learning the song, and they even have things that, you know, encourage you to memorize a song. And so there are points in the song, you play a song, you start floundering in it, and then you finally figure out what the rhythm is and you start playing it. That feels really good. You start feeling like in tune with the game, in tune with the drumming, and that's what makes you feel like you are actually drumming and you're not just playing a VR game.
Cool. Let's move to the third point.
All right, that brings me to our final charge, one count of third degree sweating of the small stuff. As with any VR game, longevity can be an issue. With 30 songs on the docket, 3 difficulty levels, and no competitive multiplayer, there's a discernible limit on how long the game would last. However, there are nice touches implemented to help keep things fresh. There are a lot of unlockable customizations, such as purchasable drum designs, different sticks, and hand stylings, and things like that. And there's also a decent variety of gameplay modes in the campaign. I was surprised. You get stages with boss fights that require like furious drumming power struggles where you just bang it as hard as you can to fight against a demon. And then there's also some challenges where your hands are replaced with boxing gloves. So instead of drumming, you're punching the drums. And it's just a slight twist, makes the level different, makes the gameplay more, surprising and engaging. There's also, like I mentioned earlier, there's challenges to encourage you if you're going for scores. There's a no look. It uses eye tracking to tell if you're looking at the notes. So if you look away with your eyes, it'll start building up a meter that will multiply your score the longer you look away. That's just an interesting thing they didn't have to do, but it encourages you to really figure out what's happening so you can play the game with your eyes closed and get a high score and feel good about it. Another challenge had me performing tricks with my drumstick. So you can drop your drumsticks, you can flick them in the air. If you flick them in the air and catch them, and then it charges them up, and then you get extra points when you start drumming right after that. So that's just, I don't know exactly, like I never felt the need to have to do it other than when they told me I needed to do it. But I would just still be tempted to, okay, there's a handful of notes, there's some space here. I'll bang with one stick and try to flick the other one. It encourages you to do these flashy things, and that itself makes you feel like a more accomplished drummer than you actually are. The gameplay variety kept me engaged while I played the campaign and helped the experience feel less monotonous in the event that I didn't particularly enjoy a song. However, if you're just looking for a mainline experience and have no particular fondness for the song list, then you're probably looking at something like a 5 to 6 hour experience just going through the campaign. However, if you enjoy the song list and you like enough of the songs, you'll likely find a lot more to enjoy as you challenge yourself to achieve this S plus rank on every song at these high difficulties. And if you're looking for a workout game, this game could certainly fit the bill, as by the end of my first session, my forearms had been made sore in a way that I hadn't heard of since Adam first installed Little Star on the PSVR1. And for those reasons, on the charge of sweating the small stuff, I find Drums Rock guilty.
So for this game and this price, would you hope, as someone who purchased this, to get games and like an upgrade for free? And if not, if they made, let's say, a 5 music pack, so you get 5 songs, what price would you pay for that?
I think the pretty standard price is like $3.99 or $5.99 for like a high profile song, right? If something comes out on Beat Saber and it's a song everybody's asking for, $5.99 I think is what they're looking for that song, or maybe a pack of 3 songs from a certain artist. That would be good. I don't need a new free song pack, especially because the game's only $20. But I am hoping that there are more songs released because, like I said, I'll go through this. It'll be, I might put the game away for a while, and then I won't be enticed to jump back in unless there's a song I know and it's like, oh, I want to play that in Drums Rock. I want to drum to that song. But if it's too much, if it's like $10 for 5 songs, I'm probably not going to jump for it. But if they do start releasing song packs, $5 for 10 songs or something, I'm sure these things will go on sale. You get some bundles. If it gets a little bit of that love, I could see a lot of extra nice stuff being added into this game. And, probably down the road, there will be like a $30 version of this game that has all the bonus songs and stuff like that.
Okay, I'm interested in the final verdict.
Yeah, so overall, for the case of Drums Rock, as a purchase-worthy game, the Honorable Gaming Court finds you guilty. I liked it. I had a great time with it. Anybody looking for like a music act, I was skeptical. I didn't think it was going to work, right? I didn't think that air drumming was going to be effective, but I'll be damned if I didn't feel like I was drumming right into the first song. It sold me on the experience. Maybe it's the haptics, maybe it's the environments, maybe it's all that stuff. I really felt like I was drumming and I was having a good time.